Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Spokes podcast. I'm your host, Gianna Rummins, and I'm a current student here at the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign, studying marketing and business analytics. I started this podcast to help college students transition from high school to college, as well as providing helpful tips and tricks on how to succeed during your time in college. I'm assuming you guys clicked on this video because you're looking for ways that you can help yourself when transitioning from high school to college and what that kind of looks like. So let's jump into that episode. I wanted to kind of dive into college life, right? If you're a graduating senior and you've accepted your offer somewhere, that's a really exciting time. And I remember that feeling. I remember I got into the University of Illinois. It was actually my dream school. I'd always wanted to go there since I was a sophomore in high school. But I didn't really know what was going to happen after that. For the longest time, I would go, sports, extracurricular activities, right? I was constantly moving and doing things in order to succeed and move to that next level, which was at Illinois. But after I accepted my offer, now what, right? And congratulations to everyone who maybe have had their acceptance letter, but what are steps that you can take moving forward? And these are great tools that I'm going to give you in a framework that will hopefully help you transition to college smoothly. So, with that being said, some of the checklist things that I want to run through that I wish I knew when I started college, I think would really help you as you try and transition, especially those who are leaving home. For those who are staying at home, it's a little bit different situation. So I want to kind of touch on those who are going to be staying home first, and then those who are then going to be moving away to college and not be at the home anymore, because that is two different experiences. I luckily have had the experience with both of those. I started college when I was 16 years old. Looking back on it, it was definitely the best decision I've ever made in terms of academics and being able to push myself outside my boundaries, and it was able to allow me to make it to that next step at Illinois. When it comes to academics, it is hard to gauge what you should do and what you shouldn't do, but while I was in college, during high school, I actually attended community college and got to stay at home. That was an incredible blessing that I was able to partake in as a part of a program that was offered at my high school. With this program, I was able to immerse myself in the college experience without leaving home. And so what I mean by that is, you may be wondering, what do you mean by the college experience, Gianna? I don't know what you're talking about. What I mean is, college classes are a whole different level than high school classes. And the way that they're set up is different, and the professor's going to teach you differently than normal teachers would in school, and high school anyway. And so it's really important to understand the differences when it comes to going to school at, say, college. The differences between high school and college, you may know there's going to be block scheduling, right? You're going to have more time to maybe focus on less classes, but you can get involved in other extracurricular activities, clubs, and things of that sort. But one thing that I didn't know going into it was that the professors are not going to be there to babysit you. In high school, there was this very common theme of the teacher kind of giving you busy work, having you try and sit there and understand the concepts, and then you would be quizzed or assessed probably weekly, if not bi-weekly. But in college, the professors aren't babysitting you anymore. They're not giving you task work. You'll be lucky, actually, depending on what class you're taking, if they actually give you homework at all. Some of my classes, because I'm a business major, are a lot of presentations and exams. Hardly ever do I actually have busy work, and if it is assignments, they're actually correlated with some larger project that will be assessed either in the final or in a future midpoint presentation or exam. That is really crucial because in high school, I felt like every point mattered, and of course it does, but when it comes to college, sometimes you only get a couple opportunities to make up the whole point system of your entire grade. And that's something I had to take in mind when I was transitioning to college. You had to advocate for yourself. In high school, you kind of just were thrown into the academics, and there was tracks to either go maybe the AP route or just standardized route. For me, I was able to do dual credit, and that allowed me to do college classes full time, but it really does depend on your situation. And in terms of academics, you just have to be able to advocate for yourself. If you don't understand the material, there's plenty of resources available to you, either online or in person. I know at my high school there was plenty of resources to get tutoring help, as well as some peer advising. At college, I don't know what resources are available to you currently, but at least at larger universities like the University of Illinois, I know there's tutoring available. I know you can even get your essays checked by people who literally work at the library to do things like help students with their essays. And so this is amazing resources that you should definitely take advantage of when you're in college that people don't know of sooner. So when you get onto campus, I highly recommend looking into all the resources that are available to you, especially in academics, because I assure you, the first semester may not be as rough as you go towards maybe your major specific classes, because you'll be taking most likely a lot of general education classes at first. I highly recommend looking at those resources in advance because they can fill up, especially during places like finals week. That was something I didn't know ahead of time, and I'm just letting you know in advance because that would have helped me so much, especially as it came down to crunch time and I needed help with things like essays and finals and things of that sort. When it comes to other things on the checklist, I highly recommend doing things like emotional readiness, right? If we veer away from the, academics and more towards your emotional readiness. And so I've been talking a lot about how I started community college, right? And I was kind of pushed into this higher level of academics at an early age. But I didn't really understand the emotional readiness until I actually moved away from home. And so now I'm going to transition kind of away from maybe community college or how you're living at home, which is an incredible opportunity. You're able to stay at home, save money to take community college for 2 years and then transfer, because you most likely won't be getting all of your core classes until your end of sophomore, beginning of junior year anyway. So I highly recommend that situation if that is financially manageable and you're okay with that route. If you're not okay with that route and you have another backup option or want to pursue a bachelor's degree at a 4-year university, I highly recommend that as well. But for my situation at the time, I felt like this would allow me to save money, live at home, and to be able to immerse myself in that college lifestyle before I actually had to move away from home. In terms of moving away from home, this is quite an experience. I am so thrilled to be discussing this topic more in depth, but what I want you to think for a second on your emotional readiness. I have a lot of friends who just graduated from high school, and they've told me the similar thing about they're super excited, but they're nervous to move away from home. Or they are on the fence about if they're excited or if they're just completely terrified. And that's okay. It's okay to have nervousness because that's normal. If you weren't nervous to move away from home, when you've lived at home your whole life at this point, it's hard to say that you're not nervous. And I was most definitely nervous. I'm most definitely a homebodied person. And so the fact that I was told that, yes, you're going to go to your dream school, but you're going to have to move away from home, it was really hard for me. But one thing that I did before I left was I tried to get myself emotionally ready. And what does that mean? That meant that I tried to put systems in place to try and get myself emotionally ready for college. And being away from my family was one of the hardest things that I ever did when transitioning to college. And how I kind of overcame that is I made sure that I called my parents every single night. I made sure that I was texting them frequently about what was going on. I like to stay in very close contact with my family, and so at least having, that digital contact with them every day felt really important to me in my relationship with my family as I was going to school away from home. If there's other things that may be emotionally challenging or you may be struggling with this, moving away from the home, I know for me, I'm the oldest of 3, so having 2 younger brothers, being kind of, left as I've been kind of helping support them all these years, it's really hard to say, okay, I'm moving on to this next chapter of my life, and I won't be there to, drive my brothers to practice or, take them out to dinner or something like that. So it is a definitely different lifestyle, and I highly recommend just becoming emotionally ready and setting up systems like telling your parents you're going to call them, text them, setting up FaceTime calls and things of that sort. When it comes to social navigation, become confident in yourself, because a lot of people when they go to college are told, including myself, that you're going to find your friends for the rest of your life, right? You're going to find your lifelong friends in college. And even though that may be true, that's kind of putting a lot of pressure on yourself to find those friends. And I don't want you to feel as though the friends that you find first when you move to college are going to be your lifelong friends, because they most likely will not be. When you go to college, it's important to immerse yourself in different environments and to see what really hones your ability and your personality and who you really click with. For those who may be a little bit more shy and don't feel like approaching other groups, it's okay. I found a lot of my friends actually through my dorm room. It was a great space for me to really immerse myself with the people that lived in the same dorm facility as I did. They would do a lot of the same things I did, right? They would do like workouts and they would attend church every week. Being Catholic, it was really important for me to have those types of values and to kind of push myself outside of my comfort zone and see who I would click with. Before you go away to college, it's important to instill those values on yourself and know who you are as a person, because even though you might not click with somebody originally, you might find features or aspects of that person that you really enjoy and that push you to be the best version of yourself. And so my friend group, I absolutely love them, but we're not exactly the same, and that's still okay. I like to use this analogy of a puzzle, and this puzzle has different pieces that don't look exactly the same. Every single piece of that puzzle looks different, and even though they are individually all different pieces of a puzzle, they all come together to form a beautiful image. And that's the same concept I like to use when trying to explain a friend group, because even though you might come with different backgrounds, perspectives, or understandings of things, that doesn't mean that you're not compatible. It just means that you come from a different background, and that's beautiful in itself, and that as a friend group, you guys can combine to make something beautiful and to improve upon oneself and the people around you. If people aren't helping you improve in the areas in which you want to, or wanting you to succeed genuinely, I don't recommend staying with that friend group, because ultimately you won't feel comfortable and you'll feel anxious and you won't feel like promoting your best self or your authentic self to that person. When it comes to kind of knowing yourself, writing down 2 to 3 things that you deem to ground yourself. And what does that mean? So when I went to college, I wrote down a little list, or I thought of a list. I don't really like the concept of to-do lists. I think they just kind of topple on tasks that may not get done or may intimidate you to get done. So actually, if you don't like that framework, because I don't really either, maybe writing down just pages and pages of things that might make your life better, or things that you might have to do before college, but you don't know, and then you just overwhelm yourself. So only do that system if you like it. If not, no worries. But just think of the things that ground you. And the things that ground me include things like working out. I love working out in the morning. I feel like it's a great way to start my day. Being a morning person, that's very convenient for me because I can most likely get my workouts in before work or school. In terms of other aspects of my life, things that ground me include my religious life. Being Catholic, I've gone to church every week my whole life, and having that relationship with Christ has just been really meaningful to me, and trying to instill him in almost every aspect of my life has been really meaningful, and I'm trying to also strive in deepening that relationship with him. And I knew that that was one of my values, on top of obviously doing well in school, extracurricular activities, and having a good social life. And so knowing these values before I started college, I was able to know myself. And then when finding new friends, it was easier to see their values and where they're coming from so that I could have that perspective and have that initial thought processes when seeing who would I be a good fit with overall. Something that I wish someone told me before I started college was that it was okay to fail. I want to touch on this because a lot of people who may be going into their dream school or one of their top schools, or even if it's not their top school, but one that really excites them, right? You should be going to a college that excites you, that may be really good for your major or whatever the case may be. Just because you made it to that step, that doesn't mean that your journey's over. And that doesn't mean that you're not going to make mistakes or that you're not going to fail. Originally, I had this golden hour moment where I got into my dream school, right? Which I know isn't the situation for everyone, but from my own perspective, I got into my dream school, but I had to remember that even though I was excited in the moment, what did it take to get there? And so I like to look back on the journey it took to get to that spot, because it took effort, it took sacrifice. There was a massive opportunity cost with that glorifying, right, achievement. I didn't just wake up one day and was like, yep, I'm gonna go to Illinois. That's gonna be my destination, and I think, I'll just put in my application and it'll be fine. Right? I mean, obviously you guys know this, but it's really important to kind of focus on the backstory of your life and maybe areas that you want to improve on. So moving forward, something that I wish I knew was that it's okay to fail and that you will fail. It's just a matter of what are you going to do with those failures and what are you going to do to pick yourself back up and keep moving forward. Because your parents aren't going to be there to support you in person, most likely. So you have to have a level of confidence in yourself in order to pick yourself back up when you have failures. Because beforehand, right, if I came home and I had a really bad day or I failed an exam or something like that, I had my parents, I had my brothers, I had a support system right there to help when I had a rough day. But going to college, where it's a new environment, new friends, right, new almost everything, you kind of have to have a level of confidence that I definitely did not have beforehand. And knowing that you're going to have to realize the opportunity costs with making sacrifices in order to make your goals a reality. And so this may be a little vague, but to be more in detail about this stuff, having a good friend group definitely helps when you fail. Because no matter what happens, I know my friend group will always pick me up when I feel low. And that should be the same case with your friend group. And so that is such a crucial part of when you go to college, is having that crucial support system, because I can believe in myself and my abilities, knowing that when I fall, people will be able to pick me back up. But at the end of the day, you shouldn't rely on your friends, because your friends won't always be there. Your family won't always be there. At the end of the day, it's you and only you. And so what are you going to do to pick yourself back up and keep going and moving forward? On top of that, I'm very excited to share these tools with you, because I know that it will help people who are transitioning to college. I don't mean to talk about failure to scare you or to say that college is intimidating and that you shouldn't try. That's not what I'm saying at all. I highly recommend getting involved, getting passionate about things, and being okay with maybe choosing the wrong thing over time and then shifting gears. For instance, I don't know if you guys are aware, but there's a large thing that happens every year during the fall semester at every college campus, and that's called Quad Day. And during Quad Day, there's a bajillion clubs that come out, and they always want to promote you to become a member of their club for X, Y, and Z reasons. Typically, they're really great offerings, and I got super wrapped up in the Quad Day stuff, right? I wanted to be a part of everything. At some point, I wanted to join the rowing club, okay? I don't know how we got there, but we got there. I've never rowed in my life, but Quad Day can influence what you want to get involved in. And so I highly recommend just thinking about what you want to do long term and kind of setting it up into a framework of 3 steps. These steps include doing something that will help benefit you in terms of your long-term career, one that is not career related, but you enjoy and that you're passionate about. And then 3, it might be something that you just enjoy or have a hobby and you want to excel in that hobby, or you just want to socialize with this group of people more, so you get involved in this one thing. I will give you an example of what this framework looked like for me. Over time, I assure you I did not join the rowing club, but I did get involved in things my first semester of freshman year that I would not be involved in and am not involved in now. And so now that I've gone through that experience and having doubt about what I should get involved in, the things that I'm involved in now include things like the American Marketing Association. Having a marketing and business analytics background, I felt like this was really important in my steps in increasing my knowledge on marketing, because not everything you'll learn in the classroom will be applicable to the real world. And so immersing myself in areas where I can actually take real world work and apply it to internships or a career after college would be very beneficial. In terms of things that wouldn't be something that would be career focused, would be something like, say, pottery club. I don't know if we have a pottery club, but that'd be something really cool that you could try if you're into pottery. Or for instance, for me, I joined things like a Bible study, and I also joined this co-founding organization now called Clubs Communities. I co-founded this club to help provide resources to freshmen and transfer students who want to get involved on campus but don't know where to start. And so we provide those resources to them in order to make the best decisions and to not backtrack when they may go down the wrong path and then regret putting all their time and effort into things that they initially did not, or I guess over time, did not want to get involved in. And so with that all being said, it's important to look at what you really want to get involved in, and that it's okay to make the wrong decision, but knowing from those decisions you make, there will be consequences, but those consequences aren't always bad. Sometimes they're a learning curve in knowing what you actually want to get involved in. And with that, I'm incredibly happy for everyone and their situation in college. Everyone's situation is different, so I can only speak to my perspective and my college experience. It's been challenging, but I love it, and I highly recommend anyone who's going through this transition period of college to enjoy the time that you have with your family and to enjoy the time in which you can really decompress and understand you as a person and your values before moving away to college. I recommend taking it one step at a time, and that you won't always have everything figured out, and that's okay. There were multiple times where I was stressed out about what I should major in, and that I didn't know where to go from there. But over time, I figured it out, and so I'm telling you now that you will have some second thoughts about what you want to study. You may have second thoughts about what you want to get involved in, but at the end of the day, it's okay to make changes, and it's okay to revert to a different path because it may not be the right path for you. And so I encourage you all to reflect and kind of journal about this stuff, as it may not come easy to everyone. It definitely did not come easy to me. I congratulate you all on this amazing achievement, and I can't wait to see all the successful and exciting things that you get to do with your time in college. If you haven't already, please subscribe, share, and comment on things that you're looking to do when you're transitioning to college, and if you want any more specific advice on how to do that successfully and smoothly. Thank you all so much for listening. I'm Gianna Romans, the host of the Spokes podcast, and I will see you all in the next episode. Bye, guys.